Hello, welcome back to another biometrics integration episode. Today, I am going to show you how to do fingerprint authentication in PHP using the HID DigitalPersona 4500 fingerprint scanner. To get us started, I am going to open the Visual Studio Code IDE, where I will show you part of my registration code and part of my authentication code. I will also take you through the database backend so that you can see where the captured and saved details of the person and their biometrics data will be saved in the MySQL database. So right away, let me open the Visual Studio Code IDE. Here it is. This is the Registration.php file where I have the PHP code for doing the person's registration and the saving of their enrolled particulars and their biometric data. In the Authentication.php file, this other one here, the second one, is where I have the PHP code for doing biometric authentication. Let's go back to Registration.php. As you can see at the very top here, I have these URLs here. The first one is for registration, and the second one, this one here, is the first one. Second one here is for authentication. Before I take you to the database, that is the MySQL database, let me first show you the GUI for registration, how it looks like. Then afterwards, I will also show you how the GUI for authentication looks like. Then after that, we'll go straight to the database so that I can show you the structure of the MySQL database table where we will be saving the registered person's data together with their biometrics. Right now, I'm going to copy this URL right here. Copy it, that is for registration, the URL for registration. Then I go to the web browser. This is Microsoft Edge. Let me open a new tab right here. I just click here. Then I go to help and feedback. I go to help. You will see that this is Microsoft Edge web browser. So on this tab, let us now paste that URL that we copied. I do paste and go to. So there goes our registration GUI in PHP web page. In this first section here is where we will capture the person's particulars in these input fields. Then in this other section here is where we will enroll their biometrics fingerprint data. Now that we have the registration web page now opened, I also want us to check out how the authentication web page looks like. So to do that, I'll go back to the Visual Studio Code IDE right here. Then I copy this below URL. Or I just come here. This below URL here for authentication. So I place my cursor here. I do Shift N, click Ctrl C, copy it, and I minimize this Visual Studio Code IDE. Then I come back here to the web browser and I open a new tab. Then right here in the address bar, I do paste and go of the URL that we copied. You can see we are in the did I end up copying? I copied the registration URL again. No, I did the wrong thing. I need to copy the authentication URL. Authentication URL here. Let me confirm whether it is the authentication URL because I ended up copying my own thing. Yeah, this is the authentication URL. I do Shift N, Control C. I also need to come here and correct this because this is not the correct URL for authentication. To control legal others. So now we go back to the web browser. I close this bit here. I open a new tab again. Then I paste here. That is the authentication URL. Yeah, this is now the correct authentication URL. You can see Biometric Engineer Authentication Panel. So this is the authentication panel. That is the authentication web GUI or PHP application. And this is our registration web GUI for our PHP application. Now that I've been able to show you both the registration page, the authentication web page, let us now minimize the web browser and I take you to the database backend. To access the database backend, we need to launch a database management tool here that is called HID SQL. So here is our HID database management tool that will allow us to log in into our MySQL database so that I can be able to show you where the data that is captured and the biometrics data will actually be saved in the database server. So to do that, I have this entry here, this one here that we are calling HID DigitalPersona 4500 PHP integration. These are the login particulars, that is the user, the password is on here, and this is the port where the MySQL service is running from. So we'll just proceed and I click open. So there we go. Right here, this is the database. You can see it is called HID DigitalPersona 4500 PHP intake database. And then inside that database, we have this table here that is called consultant. Just click consultant here. I want to show you the structure of the consultant table. It has an ID, is like a unique key. It has an FNAME column for the first name. It has an SNAME column for the surname. It has a tech role column. It has an email column. It has a bioscanner column. It has a text column. It has a biodatabase column. It has a website column. It has finger 1 column and finger 2 column. And lastly, the registration created time column. So now, before we do any registration, I need to show you that this MySQL table, that is the consultant table here, is currently empty. It doesn't have any data inside it at the moment. Once we successfully do our registration, we'll be able to see the data that will have been saved inside this MySQL table. So to confirm that it is actually empty, we can run this select query here, that is select star from consultant. So that I'll just right click here and do run. So you can see it is actually empty. Can even do a select count to confirm that there is no entry. In this query here, we do a select count from the consultant table. Observe what happens if I run that query. It returns 0. Right? So now that we have confirmed that our consultant table is actually empty, let us now proceed and actually do a registration for person. We capture their particulars. in the input fields, then we enroll their biometrics data. So let us now minimize this HID SQL database management tool so that you can go back to our we can go back to the web browser and do an actual fingerprint registration process. Now we'll need to get back to our web browser here. Then we make sure we are inside the registration web GUI of our PHP application. So there we are. Let us now do an actual registration. For the first name, I will type Joseph. For the surname, I will type Moema. For the tech role position, I will type Biometrics Engineer. For the email, I will type my official email address. For the biometric scanner, I will type HID DigitalPersona 3500. Then for technology used, I will type PHP. For database, I will type MySQL. Yeah, and that's it. We have enrolled we have captured all the required particulars for the input fields. Now what is pending is the biometric fingerprint data. And to do that, come right here. Then in the section for biometric fingerprint enrollment, we will need to enroll one finger from the left hand and another finger from the right hand. But for me, I usually prefer to enroll the left index finger and the right index finger. You can even enroll the left thumb and the right thumb. But for me, my preference as always has most of the times been to use the left index finger and the right index finger. So now suppose we click submit before we enroll any fingerprint in this registration form. What would happen? Observe what happens after I click submit. So there's this validation in place that prevents you from saving the person's particulars without enrolling their biometrics. So like for instance, in our case, when we clicked on submit, we received this message. Please enroll 2 fingers before clicking submit to save data. Like we just repeat it again. I click submit. When you see we receive this message, please enroll 2 fingers before clicking submit to save data. So let us now proceed then down to enrollment of the left finger. So then click on it like this. Then we get this message, enroll the left index finger. So we say okay, and then you see this oval window here. This is where they capture the enroll the left index finger image will appear. So let me just place my left index finger on the biometric scanner right now. See? The left index finger has actually been enrolled. I say okay. So now, what will happen if we clicked submit with only 1 finger enrolled? Remember, the application requires us to enroll 2 fingers, but we have just enrolled 1. So what will happen if we click submit before we enroll the second? Observe what happens after I click submit. Met with this message here. Only 1 finger is enrolled. Please enroll 1 more finger. Okay? So you can't proceed until you have actually enrolled the required 2 fingers. Click OK. Then now I select the right index finger. I click on it to enroll it. Then I get this message, enroll the right index finger. I say OK. Then now I present my right index finger on the scanner. Observe what happens. So now I have both the left index finger and the right index finger enrolled. So now we are ready to see this person's details. So let us now click the submit button and see what happens. Missing required field website. Oh, so there's a field we have not yet populated. Oh yeah, this one here, you see. We had not yet captured the website field. So I will enter my official website. This one was missing. I had not noticed that I omitted it, but now I have actually entered it. So let us now click on submit and observe what happens. So here's the message. Person saved successfully. Right? So now let's confirm whether this person has actually been successfully saved into the database by reopening our HID SQL database management tool and review the data in the consultant SQL table. Confirm whether now the consultant SQL table actually has any data. I'm going to click on HID SQL database management tool. Then there's this query here now, the select star from consultant. Remember, initially it was empty before we did any person registration. Now we should be able to see the data here. If indeed that person was successfully saved, as we are seeing from this message here from the front end. So let us now run this query, that is select star from consultant. So what happens to run? So yeah, you can see the person's details were captured in this entry. So you can see the first name is Joseph, the surname is Moema, the role is Biometrics Engineer. The email is my official email address. The bioscanner is the HID DigitalPersona 4500. The tech stack is PHP, the database is MySQL, and the website, the one we had forgotten to enter in that website field. You can see it is fully captured right there. And that is the finger 1 tech data. That is fingerprint 2 biometric data. And you can see the reg created there. The reg created the time field. You can see the entry went into the database at the year 2025 in October. The date is 7th. The time was 20:36. That is 8 p.m. What is the time right now? Let me click on this. So you can see the time right now is actually 8:39 p.m. and the date today is 7th of October 2025. So this has actually been saved just a few, actually 3 minutes ago, less than 2 minutes ago. So that's it for registration. I just realized that I did not put in place a mechanism for clearing the input fields and control the fingers of the registration. I will need to put in my code a way to clear the fields and the biometric enrollment fingers that were actually selected in the previous registration process, so that the application, that is the registration page, is clean in readiness for enrolling the next person after the first person has been successfully saved into the database. Now that I have shown you how to do registration and also shown you how the data was archived in the database, after registration, let me now take you to the authentication page. That is, let me now take you to the Web Biometric Authentication GUI for our PHP application. Here it is. Does not have the biometric fingerprint enrollment section because we don't need that bit here. What is happening in the authentication, in the Web Biometric Authentication panel, that the person presents their finger on the HID DigitalPersona 4500 fingerprint scanner, and if they are authenticated, if they are successfully authenticated, these fields too get populated with their data particulars from the database. Otherwise, if the person that presented their finger on the scanner is not recognized, then nothing happens. These fields just remain as they are. Right now, we go straight ahead. I do authentication with one of my registered fingers, actually with the left index. Remember, I registered with my left index finger and my right index finger. If I attempt to use any other fingers apart from those two, you should receive no recognition message. So right now, let me present my left index finger on the biometric scanner. Observe what happens. Yeah, you can see Joseph Mwema authenticated successfully in this message right here. And you can see in the background that the input fields have actually been populated. Remember, initially they were empty. So I can just say OK. So you see, these fields have been populated after a successful authentication of the person when they presented their left index finger on the biometrics. Right? So let us now clear this data by clicking on the clear details so that we can do another authentication process using the right index finger right now. I click clear details. Observe that all these will be cleared once I click the clear details. So they have all been cleared. Right? Now, let me present my right index finger on the biometric scanner. Observe what happens. Remember, the right index finger was one of those fingers that I enrolled during the registration process. Yeah, you can see Joseph Mwema authenticated successfully. And you can also see in the backend that the input fields were also populated. That is the first name, the surname, right? So now I can just click OK so that we see the input fields. You can see all the input fields are populated with the particulars of the authenticated person. So now that we have confirmed that the left index and the right index can successfully be authenticated on the PHP biometric application, let us now attempt to do an authentication using a finger that was not registered. I will use my left thumb to attempt an authentication. Let's observe what happens, but first I will need to clear these details here. I've cleared the fields. Now let me present my left thumb on the biometric scanner. Let's observe what happens. See, you get the message, fingerprint not recognized. Fingerprint recognized. And that is because that finger could not be matched to any of the enrolled biometric fingerprints in the database. So suppose I run my right index finger on the scanner. What happens? Remember, the right index is one of the fingers that was actually enrolled. So we should receive a fingerprint match found. So what happens? You can see it retrieved my details. That is Joseph Mwema, authenticated successfully. The input fields were also, and the person's particulars were also retrieved and displayed on the screen. See? Now, before I even click clear details, let's see what will happen if I present a finger that is not enrolled. I'm going to present my right thumb. Remember, the right thumb is not one of those fingers that was enrolled. So we should receive a no match, and also these fields will be cleared. The application does not find a fingerprint match because there's no data to match it to. So it will clear these fields. Initially, I was clearing them, then doing the fingerprint presentation on the scanner. But right now, I want to show you how a finger that is not enrolled will cause the related fields of the previous authentication to be cleared. So what happens? Now I'm presenting my right thumb on the biometric scanner. So what happens? You see? Fingerprint not recognized. And what happens to the data in the person's particulars fields? They were all cleared. You see, they have nothing. They have nothing because they were cleared. And we presented the wrong finger, that is an unregistered finger on the biometric scanner. It does not click OK here. You can see there's no data here. There's no data here. The data was cleared by the fingerprint, no match event. Let me present my left index, the scanner, so that I do the last finger match found. So what happens? Yeah, it retrieved my details. You can see the fields are populated and we have this message here, Joseph Mwema authenticated successfully. So basically that's it. That's how we are doing fingerprint registration and fingerprint match. I want to minimize this so that I can show you part of my code that I used to implement this application. We'll start with the registration. So ignore this bit here. So this is how I am going about it. This is where I am being error reporting and debugging it here. But in production, you don't need this. And this is where I'm doing the database connection. Then this is where I'm reading the posted data from the web frontend. That is from, that's the registration web GUI. And then this is where we are doing the validation of the input fields here. Then this is where we are doing the validation of the biometric fingers for every one of them right here. Then this is where we are extracting the input fields on the web frontend. That is all the data, which should be the registration. Yeah. From all the data that we enter here, that is where, This is where we'll be extracting it. And right here is where we prepare the insert statement for the data that we are going to save to the database. Then from the front end, the one that we captured during registration, and here is where we are doing the binding of the parameters of the input field with the data from the input field. Then here is how we execute the prepare the insert SQL statement. Then at the very end, we close the statement and we also close the MySQL connection. That is the connection handle to the MySQL database. Now let me show you. Let me also show you part of my authentication code in the Authentication.php file. This one here. Ignore this PTL, that is for the URLs. So this is where we get the fingerprint data from the front end, that is from here. But I can't, whenever we present in, like for instance, whenever we do something like this, yeah, that's time. Whenever we do something like this, that time our fingerprint biometric data will be passed to the backend. This is where it will be handled. This bit here. Then the application proceeds to scan all the fingerprint records. So we first set these fields to null before we do anything. If a match was not found, this is the message that we return, that is finger not recognized. If there was no match, report this error as fingerprint not recognized. Actually, let me demonstrate that. Right here, let me clear this. Then I present a wrong finger here. So what happens if I present an unregistered finger? So you see, we get that message, that is fingerprint not recognized. Actually, this is that message here, fingerprint not recognized. Right? So then we proceed with this bit here for retrieving the person if the registration was, if the authentication was actually successful. And for sure, if the person was successfully authenticated, this is the message that will be returned, that is authenticated successfully. And then you see this user data object here is the one that will have the names and the details of the particulars of the authenticated person. Let me demonstrate that on the web page. That is on the web biometric authentication page. So what happens? I'm going to run my left index finger on the scanner, which is one of the fingers that was enrolled during the registration process. So we should receive this message here. Is on here, authenticated successfully. So it will have the name of the person that was successfully authenticated, and then together with authenticated successfully. Looks up what happens right here. So I'm going to present my left index. Observe what happens. So you see, so we receive the person's name and the authenticated successfully message. So that will only happen if we present a finger that was successfully registered during the registration page. Then for the remainder, okay, let me just do okay here and then I clear this bit. And we go back to our Visual Studio Code. Then this is the remainder of the code. And this is the function that is actually doing the matching of the fingerprints that are presented from the Web Biometric Authentication web page of our PHP application. So basically, that's it. That's all that I wanted to show you for the PHP biometric registration and authentication components of this PHP application that I implemented using the HID DigitalPersona 4500 fingerprint scanner. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. You could also send me an email if you want to know. Otherwise, that's all that I wanted to show you today. See you in the next one. Bye bye.